Hey everyone, welcome back to the Adobe After Effects tutorial with Mr. Will. We've been going over basic animations lately. We're going to continue to build off of that. In this segment, we're going to talk about radio waves. What are radio waves and why are they important? Radio waves as a tool in After Effects used in animation for logo creation, background design, overlays for presentations, social media, you name it. This is a key tool and a trick that you'll need to learn and you'll want to learn in After Effects. So before we get into this lesson, make sure that you, first of all, breathe easy. This is not that hard. Inch by inch is a cinch. Take your time, pause the video, play it back. Just do your best to grasp these concepts. The more comfortable you get, the more confident you'll be. And as your confidence rises, your content will improve. All right, so again, breathe easy and let's jump into After Effects. Okay, so here we are. Assume that we've created a new project. We're here at New Composition or New Composition from Footage. We're gonna click New Composition. I'm just gonna go ahead and just accept OK with the settings just for time's sake. All right. Here we are. Before we get started, we want to make sure we come up to the Windows panel, come down to Workspace, and select Reset Default to save layout. Again, come up to Windows, scroll down to Workspace, and scroll down to Reset to save default. All right, now we're all looking at the same interface. All right, so let's begin with the tutorial. So, radio waves. What are they and how do we create them? All right, so we need a solid background. So the first thing we want to do is click in the composition panel, and we want to come up to layer, come down to new, and select, we can just go a solid layer. That's fine. You can do a solid layer or shape layer. We want to change the name to radio waves. All right, that way we know what we're looking at in the timeline panel. So again, you want to go up to layer. You want to create a new layer, a solid or a shape. You want to name that layer radio waves and then click OK. All right, so as you see, I clicked OK. We have a gray solid background. You could change that background color to your likings. It's totally up to you. But again, for time's sake and just for the tutorial, we're going to keep it gray. All right, so here we have our plain gray background. How do we generate a radio wave effect? Well, we want to come up to Effect. And we want to come down to generate. All right, you can find the radio waves preset underneath the generate tab. You can also come over to the various panels and click on effects and presets and type in generate, and it'll bring up the option for radio waves. But again, for tutorial sake and for my comfortability sake, I like to just come up to effect, scroll down to generate, and come down to radio waves. All right, so again, you come up to Effect, scroll down to Generate, and then you want to scroll down to Radio Waves. All right, so I have selected 2 radio waves. All right, so I'm going to delete one just for tutorial sake. Okay, so we have our radio wave selected. Let's go ahead and hit the space bar. All right, so what do we see? We see like radio frequency waves generating, all right? They generate, they fill the screen, and it will be a continual loop for a few seconds. All right, this is beautiful. How can we manipulate this to make this better? All right, and radio waves. There are so many options and so many selections to choose from and so many ways to modify the look that you want. So what we can do, let's first take a look at the radio waves properties, okay? We have producer points, okay? The producer point is basically choosing the anchor point. What's the center of the composition, or where do you want your radio waves to generate from? So if I move this to the left or right, as you see, it just changes the center point of our composition, all right? And then it's the X and Y value, okay? Just again, it just changes where the anchor point is for that particular layer. Parameters are set to birth, okay? Birth is where your radio waves originate from, okay? So that consistent pattern that you see, it all comes from the same place. You can switch that to each frame, and what that does is, okay, so when it's birthed, it gives each radio wave like their own separate lifespan, or you can like manipulate each one separately. When you switch to each frame, it'll allow everyone to now work in unison. It just provides a different look, and we'll get into that more detail here in a second. All right, so we're going to just keep it at birth. All right, render quality. Right now it's set at 4. Okay, so render quality, all that means is your resolution. All right, so if you want to look at it in high resolution, you turn it up and your lines will look better. Your animation will look better. Basically, I like to keep it at the default setting just because of workflow. From a workflow standpoint, I like to just have everything running smoothly, again, because everything is ran off of your RAM. And if you don't have a fast RAM processor, this can take a minute. So you can leave your render quality to 4. That is plenty enough for you to see what you need to see. If you really want to work in a high workflow and see everything at a crispier rate, you want to turn that up to about 16. Wave type, polygons, basically it's counting polygons, all right, pixels and shapes, okay, pixels and shapes. So under the wave type, you got polygon, you got image contours, and you got mask, okay? So these are 3 different options that you can choose. Polygon chooses, basically, it'll just choose the shape that you're looking at here on the screen. Image contours is where you can input like a logo. And then mask, also you can mask a logo. You could put a logo in there and have the radio waves like coming out of the mask or the logo, all right? So there's 3 different options, and we'll show you more about what those look like. Okay, so we're gonna leave it at polygon. We're gonna come down here and click on the polygon tab, and then we have a couple drop-down boxes. We have sides, curves, curve size, and curviness. All this is this segment right here just determines the shape of your radio waves. All right, at 64, we have a circle, okay? If we want a perfect circle, because if you zoom in, if I was to use the zoom in tool and we zoom in on these polygons, you can see like the little lines, okay? Reason for that is because of my render quality, right? But let me change that back to 4. Sorry about that. All right. If we want a perfect circle, because you can kind of see like the jaggedy lines right there. If we want a perfect circle, we could turn that up to 128. Okay. That'll give us the perfect circle. All the edges should be very, very smooth. Okay. The curviness, that comes from when you make other shapes. All right. So I wanted a perfect circle. I want 128 sides. That gives you the perfect circle. 64 gives you a nice looking circle. But let's say we go like 4. Changes our shape, okay? The curviness, if we want to look at the curviness, again, we're going to zoom in. And we're going to come down to curved sides. So our curved sides, as you see, they are pointed. And then when I toggle the curved sides, you can see how it rounded it off, okay? I'm gonna right click and reset. All right, curviness works the same. All right, so I want to increase the value of the curviness. All right, so they both work together. All right, so I change the curve size to 4, and then the curviness, as you see, it toggles it just a little bit more, gives you control over the curves and more detail. All right, did you see that? Curves affects the curve size, and curviness affects like the detail of the curves in that size. All right, so toggle those to your liking. As you drop down to star, so we click star, depending on how many sides your shape is, it'll create a star from that. So let's go ahead and click on that. As you see, we have a star. When we look at star depth, all right, that just means where the star generates from. Just we control like the depth perception of what the star looks like. So let's toggle that. All right. So we can grow the star, or we can make it really tight, and we can distort it to look how we really want it to look. All right. So we have a lot of options to play around. Little Spider-Man vibe right there. Kind of like that. But that's how you create a star. I'm going to unclick star. All right, next section we're going to look at is the wave motion, okay? When we play back our animation, the frequency, let's look at what frequency does. We're going to turn up the frequency. It's at 1, we're going to turn it up to 3. All right, or 2.6. As you see, it created more shapes at a higher rate. All right, it deals with speed, all right, and timing. Okay, so I increase the frequency, you see the results. So let's take it back from the top. I want to toggle now the expansion. Expansion toggles like how far your shapes move to the end of your composition. All right, so if we bring the expansion down, we just want the whole sequence just to kind of end like in the center. Like we don't want it to like fill the edges of the screen. We just kind of want it just to be like a regenerating thing. This is what you do for expansion. All right, so the lower I bring that number, the slower over time it takes to fill up the whole entire screen. Okay, if I want to increase it and make it look wider, all right, I just toggle it to a larger number and you see the difference. Okay, orientation. Let's bring it to the top. I'll take down here, I reset that value back to 5, and with orientation just rotates the image. All right, it rotates the shape. All right, and as you see, I have my anchor point set to the middle. Okay, direction. All right, the direction, as you see, let's well, velocity. Let's come down to velocity. We'll hit direction in a second. So once we toggle velocity, as you see, it moves up or down. All right, like it changes the orientation of how the radio waves interact with the composition. So as you see, it changed the direction and just kind of gave it a different feel. All right, so now we want to change the direction of that. All right, you see I am toggling the direction, and that just gives us a different type of look. All right, so let's go ahead and toggle that. All right, so as you see with velocity done, you see how direction affects the radio waves. Let's keep going, shall we? All right, so I'm going to reset these values, or the orientation value. All you do is to reset is just right click on that particular tab, and then you just reset. Click reset. Okay, spin value. All right, so I'm going to expand everything in just for a second. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Spin value. All right, we want to increase the spin value to about, just say 10, 11 for tutorial sake. So watch what the spin value does. It spins each individual wave. All right. It's causing each one to sort of rotate out. Okay, rotate out. So as you see, that's how you increase the spin value, and that's what the spin value does to your composition. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's look at the lifespan cycle. So each wavelength lifespan is set at about 10 seconds before it fades out the screen. We toggle this number down to say to like 3. All right, as you see, the lifespan does not last longer than 3 seconds. All right, so you see from birth to start, 3 seconds before the radio waves fade out. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and expand it back out. Let's take a look at what reflection does. So what reflection does, it makes the radio waves look like they're going off the screen, but they're bouncing back in. All right, this is kind of a cool effect. So I'm gonna start from here. Let's go ahead and click reflection and watch what happens. Like I said, it'll give it like a bounce back effect. So as the radio waves go out, it'll make it look like they're bouncing back into the screen. Kind of cool effect. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we wanted a reflection look. The frequency, we expand that bad boy out. So now you can start to see the reflection more. All right, you see how the radio waves are coming back into the screen? That's how the reflection affects your radio wave sequence, okay? So let's untoggle reflection. All right. Down here, your stroke colors, you can choose the color of your radio waves. You can add effects to it. So just for me, since I am a Go Blue fan, we can go ahead and let's jazz this up. So I'm going to come to gradient. I already have gradient ramp. I was looking up gradient ramp, so I'm going to add the gradient ramp to the effect. And so with the gradient ramp, I'm going to my gradient start color. We're going to start it at, yeah, cool blue. Okay, and then our end color, let's make it that, let's get to closest maze as we can possibly get to. Oh yeah, look, oh, in the words of Bob Ross, oh, that's so nice right there. That's a nice look. So I added a gradient look just to show you that you can customize everything, okay? So as you see, my color changed. Let's turn down the frequency a little bit because it's a little bit fast. Let's turn down the expansion. All right. And let's go ahead and hit the space bar. All right. So that is how you create radio waves. All right. The stroke, you can change the fade in time. You can change the fade out time. You can really customize every aspect of your composition just by playing and toggling with the controls over here. So let's go ahead and let's play around a little bit more. So we talked about adding, just say, a graphic to the radio wave effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the project panel and I'm going to double click. And I'm going to find my logo. All right. So I have my logo here. I'm going to bring my logo into the composition. All right. Let's go ahead and scale that thing down because it's kind of large. All right. And then what I can do now, click back on my radio waves effect control. I'm going to click image contours. Well, actually, this is what you do. Sorry about that. Let's delete that image. Let's come back to project. All right, we got our radio waves going. Hold on, it switched to contours. All right, so let's switch it back to polygon. All right, we are going to now come back to the project, click on the image, and just drag it straight to the center. All right, now we're going to scale that thing down. Okay, and then we're going to come back to effects controls, come to the radio waves, come back to wave type, select image contours. All right, so as you see, the shape changed to the contour of the shape layer. All right, so it's now a rectangle based on the composition of the layer itself, not the image, but the layer itself. So you see it reshaped. Okay, the value is at alpha, so it's choosing the stronger pixels to generate the image from. So we have image contour selected. We need to select the source layer, and I'm going to select the image. All right, let's go ahead and turn off the logo image, and let's see what that generates. All right, so what that in fact does is just generates like a portion of your logo. All right, you can create cool effects. You can change this contour number. If you change the contour number, it'll change like which location of the logo that was displayed. So let's try that. Change that to 6, enter. All right, so as you see, it shows a different part of the logo to make into a radio wave. All right, so I know what you're thinking. Oh, wow, I can like duplicate each layer and build the contours out to where it's kind of looking like the radio waves is generating my logo. That's a hard way to go about things. You can give it a try. It won't be perfect, but you can definitely create that effect. Let's see here. So we have our image selected. All right, so that's how you can add your logo to radio waves. All right, I don't want to do 52. Let's just go back to 2. All right, it shows another selection of my logo. All right, so that's how image contouring works. Let's go back to polygon. All right, let's go ahead and look at the logo. Oops, not lock it. Let's bring it back up. Let's move this logo from, actually, let's scale it down just a little bit more, and let's move it around here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create now, let's delete this radio layer. All right, so I have my logo just here on the screen. All right, and I want to create a radio wave effect on top of my logo. What I can do is I can come up to the top. All right, I'm going to create another layer, and it could just be solid. All right, go ahead and hit OK. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create a rectangle. Oops. Oops. Let's undo that. Oops. Just using the rectangle tool just to create a mask. All right. We're using the rectangle tool to create a mask because I clicked too early, but this is how you remedy the situation. All right. So I have a rectangle covering the logo. So now what I want to do is I want to come down to the timeline panel, come to the layer, the shape layer, and I'm going to right click. And I'm going to come up to the effect, and I'm going to come down to generate, and you're going to go down to radio waves. All right, as you see the shape left. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to set keyframes. All right, so now it's just like every other thing that we do in adding motion. We want to tell After Effects to create keyframes. So I'm going to start my keyframe off right here. We'll just keep it basic. Okay, So what I'll do is I'm going to change the anchor point to the radio layer. I'm going to place it inside of the mask layer. Okay, so I'm going to come back down to the logo layer. I already set a keyframe for position. Now I'm going to set a, oops, let's go ahead and get the radio waves layer over in the right section. So let's just grab the center of the circle here. All right, we're going to set a keyframe for the new position for the radio waves to populate. All right, so now we come down to our logo layer. Let's move it. Oops. Let's go ahead and change the value. Let's move the timeline marker first. My bad. All right, so now we move the logo. All right, and then we come up here to the producer point, and we change the producer point to follow our logo. All right, we created a keyframe. All right, so now we want to move forward again. Over here, our logo to a different point. Made a keyframe. We want to come back up to radio waves. Producer point. We want to move our producer point to continue to follow the logo, and we can continue to like move it around the screen, but let's take a look at what that caused. All right, cool effect, huh? So that was a quick tutorial on how to use radio waves and the creative ways you can use radio waves. I mean, you can create cool looking backgrounds. You can add radio waves to logos. You can add layers to what it looks like. So layer on top of layer of just radio waves and just overlay. So I hope this sparks some creativity in you. Thank you for sitting through this tutorial. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.